Okay, this is a pretty fun block. We get a lot of questions on, is a pre-emerge herbicide worth the money? And you can spend $15 to $20 an acre on a pre-emerge herbicide. So it's kind of neat to show the differences in what a pre offers. So this block is all E3 soybeans. On the south side, all these soybeans here did have Sonic at 5 ounces per acre as a pre-emerge herbicide. On the side over here, we did not put a pre-emerge herbicide. And then what we did is we did 4 different herbicide applications, spraying all the way through both sides. So then you got to see the post application with or without a pre-herbicide. And you can see some very definite differences. And then you see the one block over here, that did not get a pre, nor did it get a post. So that's the true untreated check. And you can see we have a lot of water hemp in this plot. So for instance, this application, this is Enlist 1 plus Liberty plus Ever Pre-X, which is S-metolachlor layered residual product. So we have Sonic plus the 3-way tank mix, and on this side we have no Sonic with the post 3-way tank mix. As you spray Enlist on our label, we want to target 6 inches or smaller weeds. It's not a rescue product. We want to manage and plan on using it on appropriate sized weeds. But what we want to show here is sometimes those weeds get a little taller than label. Sometimes they get in a situation because of wind or rain, we got to spray a little later than we want. So we're going to show with those taller weeds which one is more robust, which is going to do a better job on your more challenging weeds. And water hemp, palmer, and some of those would be some of those more challenging weeds. All right, so one of the most common programs used is a pre-herbicide followed by Enlist 1 with a glyphosate. In this case, we use Durango. If you look over here, you can see that we had excellent 100% weed control. We had the Sonic Pre, followed by the glyphosate Durango and Enlist 1. Look on the other side, we did not have a pre-herbicide down. And you could see a few water hemps peeking up, okay? Now we were spraying very tall weeds. In fact, I'm gonna pull a weed and show you how tall these water hemp were when we sprayed, okay? So we did get this one, but that's gotta be 15 to 18 inches tall. So that water hemp was pretty tall when we sprayed it. And if we don't have a pre down, we're gonna have all the weed pressure, and the broadleaf herbicide post-emerge is the only thing that's gonna work on them. And it's very challenging to get tall weeds. Now we did a fairly good job. We got most of them, but you can see that a few escaped. So that's why it's so important. You got 2 different options. And the most important one is to spend that money on that pre, because once you get that pre-herbicide down, if you're getting 90, 95, 99% control, you have so few post-emerge to get, and you can spray a little later because the pre is giving you some residual. Then you could target smaller weeds and get that excellent weed control like we're seeing here. Now, if you go back just a little bit, you'll see in this block, as we use Enlist 1 plus Liberty plus the Ever Pre-X. And if you got weeds that are getting too tall, off label, in those situations, the glyphosate with Enlist 1 may not be quite enough. In a situation like this, we may have to put a little more broadleaf weed control, and with adding Liberty to Enlist 1, we get 2 different modes of action. One's a contact herbicide, one's a systemic herbicide, and they're both working on the weed at the exact same time. And when we did that, this did not have a pre, but we still got very good broadleaf weed control post. Not perfect. Everything with the pre's are better weed control, but if you get in that type of tough situation, you may want to switch from the glyphosate to the Liberty tank mix to handle these tougher weeds. One unique thing is there's a new trait of soybeans on the Extend side called Extend Flex, and that also has that glufosinate trait package. But what's interesting is you cannot tank mix Liberty with the dicamba herbicides post on beans. So that will not be a tank mix option. You'll have to do separate applications. With the Enlist system, you can tank mix them, and it does a very, very nice job. That tank mix is fantastic on your tougher weeds like pigweed, palmer, water hemp, kochia, some of those more challenging weeds. That tank mix option will be the #1 recommendation that we'll be recommending. So this is a very interesting part of the plot, because you have only Sonic pre-emerge to the south, but to the north we have nothing. So this is the weedy check. This is the kind of pressure we have out here. So I like to compare a pre-only program. You see one water hemp emerge, there's a couple little ones in there. So the pre-emerge got that kind of weed control. So that's what the pre is offering you. It's giving you fantastic early season weed control. And if you're going to look at some of these different plots, the Sonic pre actually looks better than a no pre with a post. So if that makes sense, a straight post application is not as good a weed control as just the pre in this plot. Obviously the pre plus the post is fantastic. That's what we're recommending, but it just really shows the value of having a pre-emerge herbicide. This is just Durango and 2,4-D, and it killed a lot of these water hemps, but a few are coming back. See that? You're getting a few because we did not have a pre down. Weeds were taller than 6 inches. It's tough to get 100% weed control when you don't have the full program out there. Now, if you compare this to only a pre-emerge herbicide program, there's just 95% of the water hemp never emerged in the first place because they were killed with the pre. I mean, you want to spend that money on the pre because you just don't know what the year is going to bring in, and you really want to get most of those weeds killed before they ever emerge. Because you look at a water hemp that's about 6 inches tall, it's going to have 4 or 5 growing points. And 2,4-D is a growth regulator. What it does is it kills growing points. So the more growing points it is, you got the same amount of herbicide per acre, the tougher it is to kill the weeds. So you got a 6-inch water hemp, which is what our label is, you got 4 or 5 growing points to kill. Pretty darn easy. But you get a 18-inch water hemp like some of these, then you're looking at 20, 25 growing points. Same amount of herbicide per acre, you got that many more growing points, it's tougher to kill them. So it's very important to target small weeds. And when they're germinating, there's 1 growing point when they germinate. If you can kill them with a pre-herbicide with 1 growing point, pretty darn easy. So on this block again, we got the pre-herbicide plus post, and on this side we have just the post application. So what we did here, that has Sonic, this does not. We've got Enlist 1 plus Durango, but here we added Ever-Pre-X, like we did in the very first block. And the Ever-Pre-X is the S-metolachlor layered residual. There's oil in that. So we're actually seeing with a layered residual, not only are we going to get better residual weed control, but with that oil in there, we're actually getting some better knockdown of emerged weeds at time of application. So you can see this, the layered residual is helping with the broadleaf weed control versus the prior one where we did not have the layered residual in there. So we're getting a couple effects. A couple blocks from now, we're going to spend some time talking about the layered residual and what kind of weed control that offers. But something I didn't expect, it's kind of interesting. It's still not weed free. The pre followed by post is weed free. So you're going to get better weed control with the pre's like we've always been talking, but some different tank mix partners can help with the post weed control as well. One question we get quite a bit when we're using Enlist 1 or Enlist Duo herbicides post-emerge is a lot of growers want to also control their volunteer corn in the soybeans. And what we did in this block here, we're kind of showing some trait tolerance, which is very good. But we also wanted to show and talk about kind of the recommendations we have when we are using either a clethodim product like Select Max or using a FOP herbicide like Assure 2. If you're going to tank mix that with your Enlist 1 to control volunteer corn, our recommendation is you increase the grass herbicide rate by 1/3. So for instance, if you're using 6 ounces of Select Max and you're going to tank mix it with Enlist 1, then we want you to go 8 ounces. If you're normally using 5 ounces of Fusilade, we want to increase that to 6.5, 7 ounces. We want to increase that rate because there can be antagonism with grass herbicides on growth regulator if you're tank mixed with growth regulator products. So typically that's what we do. We just increase the rate by 1/3. There's no antagonism on the broadleaf weed control side, but on the grass, volunteer corn side, there can be antagonism. Don't always see it, but we see it enough that we're recommending 1/3 higher rate. Some guys even go a 50% higher rate. The other option is to do separate passes. You could do Enlist 1 plus its tank mixes first and come back later to kill the volunteer corn. If you do that, we recommend at least 7 days between applications. If you get at least 7 days, then you won't get any antagonism. So got a couple different options. Just remember to do that if you're going to be doing the tank mixing, is to increase that rate.